What's up, everyone? GSmith624 here, and this is kind of like a response video, I guess, to The Truth About Camping, Dead by Daylight, Let's Discuss by TydeTyme, I think is how you pronounce his name, because he made a video recently talking about camping and why it's a viable option in Dead by Daylight. I agree with him, but the way he went about it, I think, is a little poor taste, because he kind of just, instead of making a logical, well-discussed video, he took apart from his live stream, which is fine, but he took apart from his live stream where he got extremely upset and was like, alright, fine, I'll play how every survivor expects me to play, and we'll see how well it goes. And while I agree that camping is a viable option, I don't agree in the way he showed it off. So that's kind of what this video is about. It's me talking about Dead by Daylight camping. Is it a viable option? And all of that. Is it a viable option? Should you do it? Is it scummy? All of that. If you're playing as a survivor, is it scummy to be face camped? Anything like that. So, camping in general is an option as a killer. And there are pros and cons to camping. If you camp someone, the pro is that is practically a guaranteed kill unless multiple people come to save that person at once. The downside to that, however, is the other survivors, if there are more than one other survivor alive, will most likely be getting generators. But that does not mean it is not a viable strategy, because camping does guarantee the kill for you, which at the end of the day is what you need to win. And if you're having fun doing it, by all means, go ahead and do it. And is it scummy for the survivor if you are the one being camped? Maybe a little bit. It depends on if you're being face camped or not, because that's where I take an issue with it. If you have a killer who is face camping you, just smacking you repeatedly, essentially teabagging you, I have a little issue with it. And granted, don't think this is me defending survivors, because I have an issue with survivors going to the exit, there being multiple survivors left, and they all just teabagging at the end because they know they're gonna get away. That's fucking scummy as well. Both of those things are toxic, and both of those things are scummy. You shouldn't do it. But to say a killer shouldn't camp, well, that's not a good reason. That it ruins your fun? Well, two of the killers in the game are kind of designed around camping. They literally made a perk where if you don't move, you have no heartbeat, you have no heartbeat, so no one can hear you. So they can still see you, but they can't hear you. So you can't say camping is not an option or it's scummy and you can't have a good game if you camp. Because you can have a good game. Two of the killers in the game are practically designed around camping. The Wraith, granted he's the worst killer in the game, is designed around camping. Don't believe me? His main ability is to go invisible. Alright, makes sense. He moves faster. He has no heartbeat. Okay, cool. But another thing a lot of people don't know about the Wraith is the Wraith has an ability where if he is not moving, he is completely invisible. Not just like a little shimmer, shimmy shammy, whatever the fuck you want to call it. He is fully invisible to the survivors. No heartbeat, can't be seen, nothing. Unless the survivor has a perk and you're too close that lets you see them. Even then, it is a viable option. Because that is how the Wraith is designed. He is designed to get one person on the hook and then punish survivors who try to save that person on the hook. Similarly with Michael Myers. If you run Insidious on Michael Myers, oh my god, he is terrifying. Fucking stand still, put stock on, have somebody on a hook, get charged up to Evil Within 3, then you can just down people in one shot. It's fucking terrifying. Michael Myers is a terrifying killer with Insidious and camping. And that is viable strategy. So you can't get angry at people for camping. I agree 100% with Tide on that. What I don't agree with him on is him saying it's unfair if the killer doesn't camp. It's not unfair because there are perks, but it goes both ways. He was complaining that survivor perks give them an unfair edge if killers aren't allowed to camp, with being able to self-heal, being able to destroy his hooks, all of that. It's unfair to the survivor if he does that, or if it's unfair to the killer if they have those perks. All of that, it's unfair to the killer, which I disagree with, because that's implying the killer doesn't have perks that are kind of that well OP as well. In fact, in the video where he is complaining about it, he's using 2 of those perks, which cancel out half the things he was complaining about. Nurse's Calling and Deerstalker. Well, Deerstalker doesn't really cancel it out, but Nurse's Calling cancels out one of the big things he was complaining about. The biggest thing he was complaining about was self-healing, at least from what I got of the video. That's what I understood. The biggest thing he was complaining about the most was self-healing and pallet dropping. Granted, there are multiple perks that counter those things that he's complaining about. There is Nurse's Calling, which he is running in the video, mind you, and it is fuck, I totally just lost my train of thought for a second. Alright, I remember now. Nurse's Calling literally is an ability where if a survivor is healing within a set amount of range from you, you can see them healing. You know exactly where they are. Or if they're getting healed by someone else, you know where they are. Ergo, it's not a scummy thing to camp. And it's not a scummy thing to have self-care, because there are perks that counter it. And another thing I have an issue with Tyde's video is he says there's not a skill cap in Dead by Daylight, and that is something I strongly disagree with. He said everyone's been here for a long enough time now that they should know the do's and don'ts of the game, and I disagree with that, because yeah, the game's been out for a year, but at the same time, the game has only been out for a month on console. So saying everyone is at the same skill cap right now is not a true statement in the slightest. There will be people who are just better than you at the game. You cannot say everyone is at the same skill when playing games such as like Dead by Daylight or any game. You can't say everyone is at the same skill, because that is simply not a true statement. And while most of the time matchmaking works rather well, there are times in matchmaking where sometimes you are a rank, I don't know, let's say you're a rank 1 killer, and you get matched up with a rank 20 survivor. If you put them up on a hook and camp them and guarantee the kill, yeah, they're going to be a little salty. Yeah, they're going to be a little upset. It's understandable in that situation. In general, people are going to be upset for camping. No matter how you look at it, in every game, camping is frowned upon, even if it is a viable option. It happens in Call of Duty, it happens in Battlefield, it happens in every first-person shooter, it happens in Friday the 13th, it happens in Dead by Daylight. No matter what, people will always complain about camping. That is just something you kind of have to deal with when you are playing Dead by Daylight. Or any game that has an option where you can even slightly camp. It is something you will have to deal with, and something that every killer will have to deal with. And then the final thing that I don't really disagree with him on, but I found it kind of petty of him, was saying, without me, you wouldn't have a game to play. And while he's not wrong, the way he said it just kind of sounded really scummy. Like, I understand where he's coming from. Yes, without him playing Killer, there would be less games, because not a lot of people play Killer. More people like playing Survivor, and that's understandable. But the way he phrased it, saying, yeah, if I don't play Killer, you don't have a game, so you should be thanking me instead of saying I'm a scumbag, that just sounds kind of scummy yourself. It just makes it sound like you're acting entitled, which is what you were complaining about the survivors doing. Which, honestly, doesn't make sense to me. But the final point I have here is the difference between camping, face camping, and patrolling. Because I feel like also people don't really understand that, and how it's all different things. Face camping is where you are literally directly in their face, and you are just constantly staring at them, smacking them, all of that, and not moving in the slightest. Camping is you're nearby, maybe you can see them, and you can tell you're close enough that if someone comes to save them, there's a good chance you can knock them down, or grab the person that is being rescued. You can either knock them down, or you can grab the person who's trying to do the rescue and just pick them up automatically, with how the killer can do that if you're being cocky, like how you can grab you when you're jumping into the hatch if you're not careful, how he can grab you if you are on a generator, or if you're just other examples, going through a window. So yeah, there are situations where I just completely went to a different thing. My apologies. But yeah, that's what camping is. And then the final thing, patrolling. All killers do it. You can't complain about it. Like, there is zero room tolerance. That's the one thing I 100% agree with him. You can't complain about patrolling. All killers do it. No matter what, you have to do it if you want to make sure you get someone. If you get them on a hook, you don't have to face camp them. You don't have to camp them even. But you keep constantly coming back and checking on them. Like, you'll go hit a generator, do some damage to it, come back. Hit another generator or break a pallet nearby, come back, check on them, make sure there's no survivors nearby, look around for them, make sure they aren't doing anything. Stuff like that. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense doing it that way. But, so you can't complain about the killer doing those things. And it's not scummy of the killer to do it that way either, because there are perks and setups that make it viable to camp. Like, even the hag also can be set up to camp, so can the trapper. You set a trap in front of someone, you run insidious, you hit around the corner, and when you hear someone disarm that trap, you just go around the corner and grab them. It's a viable option. When playing the hag, place a trap, run insidious, or just start patrolling the area. When the hook person gets off, they usually sprint away, they don't crouch. Then pop over, teleport to your thing. Just make sure you're close enough to teleport to it. Get another hit off on either them or the person that saved them, getting them into an injured or possibly down state. Camping is a viable option. You can't get angry about it, and survivors acting entitled about it is wrong. However, once again, the way Tide went about it, I feel like is a little wrong also. But that is kind of just my opinion on it, and I kind of wanted to get it out there because I've been playing a lot of Dead by Daylight and I don't plan to stop on any time soon since it has come out for consoles. But Dead by Daylight is essentially, you get camped, it's gonna happen. You're gonna get angry about it, no matter what. I mean, yeah, you can get angry about it, but you can't say it wasn't a good game because it is a viable option. I mean, yeah, if you're camped in like the first 2 minutes and you're immediately hooked, and then someone gets bold and tries to save you, and then you get hooked again because the person was nearby, it's not your fault. It's the guy that tried to save you's fault, who wanted the more points for saving you. It's a little scummy on his part, but it's still not your fault in that situation, and it's not the killer's fault. So you can't really get angry about these things. But that's pretty much my stance on it. If I forgot anything, I'll reply to comments below. And I would like to hear your opinions on it as well. Hearing your opinions would be interesting. But yeah, other than that, I've been your host, GSmith624, and I'll see you on the next video, guys. Farewell, and have a nice day.